I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Donald Trump continues to make deranged posts on his social media platform, this time attacking his former Attorney General Bill Barr, calling Bill Barr sloppy, calling Bill Barr a rhino. You know what? Let me just read the statement that Donald Trump made about Bill Barr. This is what Trump said. He said, "Sloppy Bill Barr was a weak and ineffective Attorney General who was fired. He didn't quit. And now he's nothing more than a disgruntled former, quote, employee. Barr was a, quote, bushy who was petrified of being impeached, which the Dems were going to do until he changed course on the rigged election. He knows nothing about the document hoax, and as a lawyer and former AG, Attorney General, he shouldn't be talking. Weak rhino Bill Barr always caved to the Dems and is a disgrace to the Republican Party and our nation." Here's the thing. No matter what you do for Donald Trump, if you don't bend the knee consistently and spread his cult ideology, if for 1 second you provide commentary that may be critical of the cult leader, you're out. You are all of a sudden a rhino. You are no longer a Republican. But the reality is that the Republican Party is no longer Republican. The Republican Party is a MAGA extremist cult party run by a cult leader, Donald Trump, who says things like this. By the way, Bill Barr protected Donald Trump unlawfully more than anybody. When the Mueller report came out, Bill Barr put out statements to the press that Mueller had exonerated Trump, which was not the case. The Mueller report basically made certain recommendations with which Barr and the Attorney General's office refused to acknowledge and comply with. Bill Barr, at every sense, protected Donald Trump up until the point where Donald Trump was spreading lies about the election. And even then, Bill Barr tried to come to a conclusion that there could be a way to overthrow our democracy. But after going through Donald Trump and the MAGA extremist conspiratorial ranting and ravings about satellite dishes in Italy connected to Hugo Chavez's technological network in Venezuela linked with bamboo from China, that's where Bill Barr drew a line, and Bill Barr was like, enough. That's not true, and I can't go along with that. I could go along with a lot of it, but I can't go along with that. And for that, he is now labeled a rhino by Donald Trump and a, quote, bushy. He was a Trumpy. At every single turn, Bill Barr supported Donald Trump. Now, here's why Donald Trump is lashing out against Bill Barr, because Bill Barr gave an interview on PBS where he said that, quote, "I personally think that the DOJ currently has the evidence to indict Donald Trump." Here, let's play the clip of Bill Barr on PBS that led to these Trump statements that Trump just made. Play the clip.
If the Department of Justice can show that these were indeed very sensitive documents, which I think they probably were, and also show that the president consciously was involved in misleading the department, deceiving the government, and playing games after he had received the subpoena for the documents, those are serious charges.
That's a serious
That's serious.
That's a serious
well,
enough crime.
I said that I personally think that they probably have the basis for legitimately indicting the president. I don't know. I'm speculating.
You're speculating. Yeah.
But given what's gone on, I think they probably have the evidence that would check the box. They have the case.
And if they have it, should they?
That's a decision for...
if you were AG, would you?
I'm not going to get into that.
Do you think they will?
I think it's becoming increasingly more likely.
Now, here's another clip I want to show you, which to me exemplifies, though, the cowardice of people who still are part of this like Republican adjacent party. I don't know what to make of this other than it is so bizarre and so cowardly. So after saying that Donald Trump committed a federal crime, that the Department of Justice has the information and the evidence to indict Donald Trump, after acknowledging that Donald Trump led a failed coup, Bill Barr is asked by the PBS reporter, well, so if Donald Trump were to run again, you may still support him. And Bill Barr goes, I may still support him. Here, play the clip.
But ideologically progressive versus somebody who orchestrated an attack on the Capitol, who betrayed his oath to the Constitution, as you said in your words, you still might vote for him.
So then you come to the conclusion, the only conclusion that you can draw is a simple one, is that this current Republican regime, the people like the Bill Barrs and the Kevin McCarthys and the Ted Cruzes and the Lindsey Grahams and the Marco Rubio, I could go on and keep naming a lot of these pathetic MAGAs, though. The level of cowardice that they have and the power for power's sake. There is no philosophy. That is why I always say, how dare these individuals call themselves conservative? Because there's nothing conservative about them. That's why I refuse to say, oh, it's a conservative court, or these are conservative people. Look, if you support an insurrection, if you root for a pandemic, if you are an election denier, you are a seditionist. You are not a conservative. Look, if you lined up my views will probably skew what would traditionally be called progressive or liberal. But I don't use those labels because at the end of the day, I view myself, frankly, as more conservative than these right-wing radical extremists because I believe in conserving our democracy. I believe in conserving fundamental freedoms like a woman's freedom over her body. I believe that, you know what, when there is a deadly pandemic, we should do our best to follow science, okay? And so for those reasons, I go look at these MAGA radical extremists who spread QAnon conspiracies about JFK Jr. That's conservative? That's a conservative view, and I go, they're not conservative, so I'm not going to buy into those labels anymore, and I encourage you all not to buy into those labels. But the C word that defines a lot of these Republicans, though, is not conservative, though, it's cowardice or cult, because you have the cultists and then you have the cowardices, and the real cowardice is like, how do you say this person committed all of these crimes? This person tried a coup of our government. You're the former attorney general. And then your response is, well, I still may want them to win. I still may have them, want them to be elected. It was the same thing like when I saw Pence giving that tour for his book, and he was holding these town halls, and he said, well, I am a Christian, a conservative, and I am a Republican, and so I forgive Donald Trump for what he did to me, and I would likely support him again. You would support? He tried to kill you. He literally tried to murder you. What are you talking about? You're going to support the person who tried to murder you? You're going to support that person? I mean, look, if you want to forgive somebody, I think that we can have a conversation about forgiveness. But forgiveness doesn't mean you have to support the person to become the president of the United States who tried to kill you and who led a coup against the country. Are you kidding me? Look, that's why I think so many people are waking up. That's why I wake up with such a great deal of passion every morning to share this with you, to have these conversations, because the coalition that we are building together, this pro-democracy coalition, this pro-normal coalition, this exhausted majority that has woken up so that we can fight for what truly makes this country a special place. And we are not going to let these right-wing, radical, MAGA cultists take our country again. We're not going to let it happen. So I appreciate all of your support. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hey, hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers with your support. And in addition to subscribing, check out our Patreon website. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. There's so much great exclusive content that you could only get on our Patreon site. But most importantly, it helps grow this independent media platform. Since we are not funded by any outside investors at all, we are purely funded through your generosity. So if you can help out, that would be great. If you can't, no worries, but let's keep growing this thing together. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Until next time.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.